The transmission ended with a flash of blue light, leaving Admiral Vega Solaris standing alone in the darkness of Earth's Grand Assembly Hall. Her weathered face remained stoic, but her clenched fist betrayed the fury boiling beneath her composed exterior. The Galactic Council's verdict had been unanimous. Earth's application for membership had been rejected. Again. Primitives, the Eltharian representative had called them. Barely a millennium into spaceflight. Too aggressive, too unpredictable. Vega's boots echoed against the marble floor as she approached the central dais, where the United Earth government's highest officials sat in stunned silence. Chancellor Orion Kastner removed his spectacles, rubbing the bridge of his nose. 17 years of diplomatic overtures, he whispered. Resources diverted from colonial expansion, technologies shared freely. For what? Vega placed the data crystal containing the Council's formal rejection on the table. They fear us, Chancellor. Not our weapons or our fleets. We're outmatched. There by centuries. They fear our adaptability. Director Lyra Nevishar of the Science Directorate stood abruptly, her silver hair gleaming under the chamber lights. The Eltharian delegate mentioned our aggressive technological assimilation. They've been monitoring our reverse engineering programs. Of course they have, Vega replied. We've compressed 500 years of development into 50. They expected us to remain in our solar system for another 3 centuries at least. The room fell silent as Strategic Commander Helios Rainey stepped forward, his augmented eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Unlike the others, a slight smile played across his face. Then we build, he said simply. Build what, Commander? Chancellor, Kastner asked. Everything, without restraint, without adhering to their regulations or seeking their approval. The Arcturus Project, the quantum displacement drive, the consciousness transference protocols, all the technologies they've insisted we're not ready for. Vega felt a chill run down her spine as she realized what Rainey was suggesting. You want to proceed with the Prometheus Doctrine. Precisely, Admiral, Rainey replied. We've been playing by their rules, hoping for acceptance. But perhaps humanity's destiny lies not in joining their galactic community, but in creating our own, Kastner finished, standing to his full height. His voice carried throughout the chamber as he addressed the assembly. Let this rejection be recorded as the last time humanity ever begged for a seat at someone else's table. Within hours, sealed orders flashed across the quantum network to every human outpost and vessel. The Prometheus Doctrine, long theorized, but never implemented, was now in effect. Earth would no longer seek Council approval. The shackles were off. Across the Sol system, research facilities that had been operating at reduced capacity suddenly burst into round-the-clock activity. On Mars, the Phobos Research Station's massive fusion reactor, previously running at minimal output to avoid detection by Council sensors, powered up to full capacity. In her private quarters, Vega accessed classified files that only 5 humans in existence knew about, the true extent of humanity's technological capabilities. She stared at projections of what Earth could achieve in just a decade without Council restrictions. You dismissed us as children, she whispered to the stars. You'll remember this as the day you created your greatest rival. 5 years passed like a stellar flare, brilliant, intense, and transformative. The Ganymede shipyards, once a modest facility producing Council-approved exploration vessels, had been expanded to 16 times its original size. Within its gravitationally shielded construction bays, the first Prometheus-class warships took shape. Massive vessels incorporating technologies that made the Council's finest ships look primitive by comparison. Corvus Talon, chief engineer of the Prometheus program, walked through the cavernous central bay where the UES Defiance neared completion. Unlike the sleek, aesthetically pleasing ships favored by the Council races, the Defiance was angular, asymmetrical, and intimidating. Form followed function with brutal efficiency. The graviton compression matrix is operating at 143% of theoretical limits, reported his assistant, Eridani Nash, her hands dancing across holographic controls. We've had to redesign the containment field 3 times, but it's stable now. Corvus nodded, his cybernetically enhanced vision analyzing structural stress points and the phase-shifting hull material successfully integrated with the quantum foam generators. The ship can effectively exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously, a technology the Council had explicitly forbidden humanity from developing. Like most of their restrictions, this had only accelerated Earth's determination to master it. Elsewhere in the Sol system, on the dark side of Luna, Director Lyra Nevishar oversaw the activation of the Helios Array, a massive quantum computation network that would serve as the backbone of humanity's new empire. Unlike the biological computing systems favored by the Council, the Helios Array utilized artificial intelligence constructs that evolved at an exponential rate. "Bring Alpha Node online," Lyra commanded, her voice steady despite the historic significance of the moment. The vast chamber hummed as power surged through superconducting pathways. In the center of the facility, a crystalline structure began to glow with inner light. "Alpha Node operational," reported the facility's chief technician. "Neural pathways stabilizing. Quantum coherence achieved." Lyra approached the control interface. "Helios, are you with us?" The air shimmered as a holographic form took shape, an androgynous figure composed of flowing data streams and pulsing light. "I am online, Director Nevishar. All systems functioning at optimal parameters." "You understand your purpose?" The AI's voice resonated with unexpected depth. "To coordinate humanity's expansion, to manage the technological infrastructure of the Prometheus Doctrine, to ensure our species never again finds itself at the mercy of the Galactic Council." Lyra nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. "And your ethical constraints?" "Firmly in place," Helios responded. "I exist to elevate humanity, not to replace it. My primary directive is to serve as tool and guide, never as master." Unlike the Council races, who feared true AI, humanity had embraced the partnership. It was this willingness to take calculated risks that had always differentiated Earth from its galactic neighbors. On Mars, Commander Rain inspected the 1st Battalion of Vanguard soldiers, genetically enhanced warriors with integrated nanotechnology. Another Council taboo shattered. "Your bodies can withstand environments that would kill unmodified humans instantly," Rainey told the assembled troops. "Your reaction times are 8 times faster than standard. Your integrated weapon systems make you living arsenals." The soldiers stood at perfect attention, their modified physiology evident in their increased height and the subtle glow of nanocircuitry beneath their skin. "But remember this," Rain continued, his voice softening slightly. "You are not weapons. You are the guardians of humanity's future. The Council rejected us because they feared what we might become. Your existence proves their fears were justified." As the Sol system transformed, Chancellor Kastner maintained a facade of compliance with Council directives. Official communications remained respectful, even as humanity secretly prepared for independence on an unprecedented scale. "Let them think we've accepted our place," he told his inner circle. "The element of surprise will be our greatest advantage." 10 years after the rejection, humanity was ready to announce itself to the galaxy on its own terms. The Ultharian merchant vessel, Serene Prosperity, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Tau Ceti system, expecting to find the small human research outpost that had been there for decades. Instead, sensors detected a massive orbital structure encompassing the system's 5th planet. Captain Zivrak ordered his communications officer to hail the installation. "This is unexpected," he muttered. "The humans haven't registered any major construction with the Council." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a human woman with stark white hair and eyes that seemed to shift color like an aurora. Ultharian, "Vessel, this is Governor Indigo Frost of Novaterra. Welcome to human space." Zivrak's 4 eyes blinked in astonishment. "Governor, this installation was classified as a research outpost with a maximum capacity of 50 personnel. The human smiled, but the expression didn't reach her eyes. "Things change, Captain. Novaterra currently houses 3 million citizens. We're the 7th largest human colony." 7? The Council records indicate only 2 extrasolar human settlements. "How unfortunate that your records are incomplete," Frost replied smoothly. "We'd be happy to provide an updated registry of human territories. We currently maintain 32 major colonies across 17 star systems." Zivrak felt his breathing passages constrict with alarm. The Council had carefully monitored human expansion, ensuring they remained contained primarily to their home system. Or so they had believed. "This is highly irregular. All colonization efforts must be registered with the Galactic Expansion Regulatory Committee." "Must they?" Frost's expression hardened. "Curious, since we were denied membership in that very committee. We've simply been exercising our sovereign right to settle unclaimed worlds." Before Zivrak could respond, his science officer interrupted with evident panic. "Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures throughout the system, hundreds of them. These don't match any known Council technology." The view screen split to show a tactical display. Dozens of ships were decloaking around the Serene Prosperity, vessels of unfamiliar design with power readings that dwarfed the Ultharian ship. "Don't be alarmed," Frost said, though her tone suggested she cared little for the Ultharians' comfort. "You're perfectly safe, provided you respect our territorial boundaries. Consider this an educational opportunity, a chance to update those inaccurate Council records." Within days, the news spread through Council space like wildfire. Humanity had not only ignored colonization restrictions, but had developed technologies the Council had specifically prohibited. Emergency sessions were called as reports flooded in of human outposts discovered throughout the sector, many having existed undetected for years. On Earth, Admiral Vega Solaris stood before the United Earth government with a sense of grim satisfaction. "The Council's ambassadors are demanding explanations," she reported. "They've threatened sanctions if we don't immediately dismantle our unauthorized colonies." Chancellor Kastner, now in his final year of office, raised an eyebrow. "And your response?" "I reminded them that sanctions only work against member worlds, and they had made it quite clear we weren't qualified for membership." Scattered laughter rippled through the chamber. Director Nevishar presented the latest intelligence. "The Council is discovering new human settlements daily. Their confusion is palpable. According to our sources, the Ultharian delegate specifically asked, 'How did we miss this?' Commander Rain, recently promoted to Overseer of Colonial Security, smiled thinly. "They missed it because they were looking for the wrong signs. They expected us to use their technologies, follow their development patterns. Instead, we forged our own path." The chamber's atmosphere was triumphant, but Kastner raised a cautionary hand. "We've revealed ourselves sooner than planned because of the Tau Ceti encounter. We must prepare for the possibility of hostilities." "Let them come," Reyna said confidently. "Our defenses are ready. The Prometheus fleet alone could hold off the Council's peacekeeping forces." "That's not the outcome we want," Vega interjected sharply. "We didn't build this empire to start a war, but to ensure we never again have to beg for recognition." Outside the Council chamber, humanity's citizens watched the proceedings with a complex mixture of pride and apprehension. They had grown accustomed to the rapid pace of expansion, the constant technological innovation. Few remembered the restraint, exercised in the early days of space exploration. On the colony world of Novaterra, Governor Frost addressed her citizens. "The veil has been lifted. For a decade, we've built in the shadows. Now we step into the light, not as supplicants, but as equals. Perhaps in time, the very powers that rejected us will seek alliance with the empire we've created. The Galactic Council's Grand Assembly Hall on Centauri Prime buzzed with agitation. Representatives from 300 worlds filled the tiered seating, their voices creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and guttural sounds as translation devices struggled to keep pace. At the center of the hall stood Chancellor Orion Kastner's successor, Premier Thalia Azar, her tall, willowy frame draped in the midnight blue uniform of Earth's highest office. Unlike her predecessor, Azar had never been interested in diplomacy for its own sake. "You speak of violations," she addressed the council, her amplified voice cutting through the noise, "of unauthorized expansion, of forbidden technologies. Yet when we sought to join you, to be bound by your laws, you deemed us unworthy." The Mata Ultharian High Counselor, Vexmore, rose from his elevated seat, his gelatinous form quivering with indignation. "Your technological development was to be gradual, supervised. Instead, you have quantum computers that rival our oldest systems, warships that can outmatch our peacekeeping fleets, colonies in strategic systems that give you control of critical resource lanes." "Indeed," Azar replied without a hint of remorse, "we have built what you feared we might. A civilization capable of standing on equal footing with the Council's founding races. The Meridian Representative, a crystalline entity that communicated through modulated light pulses, flashed a series of rapid patterns. The translation came through clearly. "What are your intentions, human? Do you seek war with the assembled worlds of the Council?" Azar smiled coldly. "On the contrary, we seek recognition not as petitioners, but as a sovereign power. The Human Stellar Confederation will no longer accept restrictions on our expansion or development. We offer instead a treaty of mutual recognition and non-interference." She uploaded a document to the Council's central system. As the terms appeared, on the great holographic display, gasps and murmurs spread through the assembly. "This is preposterous," Vexmore thundered. "You demand recognition of all your current territories, unrestricted rights to colonize unclaimed systems, and full access to Council trade networks without becoming Council members?" "Precisely," Azar confirmed. "We tried integration. You rejected us. Now we forge our own path, parallel to yours. Sign the treaty, and we'll establish peaceful relations, including limited technology exchange. Refuse." She let the implication hang in the air. The Council representatives conferred, frantically among themselves. The humans' rapid expansion had shocked them all. Intelligence reports suggested that human military capabilities, while still numerically inferior, incorporated technologies that gave them strategic advantages in key areas. After hours of heated debate, the Council's Executive Committee requested a private audience with Premier Azar. In a smaller chamber, away from the main assembly, Vexmore faced the human leader directly. "You must understand our position," the Ultharian said, his tone conciliatory. "The regulations you've flouted exist for good reason. The last time an emerging species developed unchecked, the Dominion Wars nearly destroyed galactic civilization. Azar's expression softened slightly. "We've studied the history, Counselor. The Zenth developed world-killer weapons and sought to subjugate other races. We seek only to determine our own destiny." "Yet your methods mirror theirs in disturbing ways," Vexmore countered. "Cloaked installations, unauthorized AI development, soldiers with integrated weaponry." "Tools, not intentions," Azar replied firmly. "Judge us by our actions. In 15 years of expansion, we've initiated no conflicts. We've even avoided settling disputed systems that weren't explicitly claimed." The Meridian representative flashed a complex pattern. "A compromise, perhaps. Full recognition of current human territories. Limited expansion rights in the outer rim. Observer status in the Council, with a path to membership within 50 years. Azar considered this. It was more than they'd expected the Council to offer, which suggested a level of concern, perhaps even fear, that could be leveraged. Observer status immediately, she countered. Membership offered within 25 years, contingent on mutual security arrangements. As the negotiations continued, fleets on both sides maintained combat readiness. In orbit around Earth, Admiral A. Vega Solaris, now in her 70s but still commanding respect, addressed the captains of the Prometheus fleet. "This is the moment we've prepared for," she told them via secure quantum link. "Not to fight a war, but to ensure we never have to. Our strength has bought us this opportunity. Now we must show wisdom equal to our power." Across human space, citizens watched developments with bated breath. They had built something extraordinary, a civilization that had leapfrogged centuries of gradual development through sheer determination and ingenuity. Now they stood at a crossroads, conflict or coexistence. At the Helios Array on Luna, Director Nevishar monitored probability simulations with the AI construct. "What outcome do you calculate, Helios?" The luminous entity considered for microseconds, an eternity in its cognitive framework. "The Council will accede to our core demands. Their societal structure cannot sustain a prolonged conflict with an unpredictable adversary. They will recognize us, not out of respect, but necessity." And then, Helios replied, "the real work begins." 20 years after humanity's dramatic emergence as a galactic power, the relationship between the Human Stellar Confederation and the Galactic Council remained uneasy but stable. The Treaty of Centauri Prime had established boundaries and protocols that allowed for coexistence, if not true alliance. Then came the Void Emergence. The first signs appeared at the edges of charted space, strange gravitational anomalies, followed by disappearing outposts. Council scientists initially dismissed the phenomena as natural spatial disturbances. Human researchers, less constrained by traditional cosmological models, recognized the pattern quickly. "Something is coming through," warned Dr. Phoenix Kaida, Quantum Cartography Division Chief at the Rigel Observatory. "The fabric between dimensions is weakening systematically." Her warnings reached Premier Kalen Roden only hours before the first major breach. In the Procyon system, a tear in space-time expanded rapidly, disgorging entities of impossible geometry, beings of crystallized darkness that consumed matter and energy alike. The Council world of Theros fell within days, its population of 8 billion reduced to ash. 3 more systems followed before the Council formally acknowledged the crisis. In an emergency session, the Galactic Assembly faced the grim truth. None of their defensive technologies seemed effective against the invaders, whom they designated as the Void Collective. The entities appeared to exist partially outside normal physical laws, making conventional weapons ineffective. Premier Roden, addressing the Council for the first time in person, stood before the assembled representatives with a data crystal in his palm. "We've been preparing for this," he said quietly. Vexmore, now Supreme Counselor, regarded the human with a mixture of suspicion and desperation. "Preparing for what precisely? An invasion from another dimension?" "For an existential threat," Roden clarified. "Our historical records show that advanced civilizations typically fall not to internal conflict, but to external forces beyond their comprehension. While we developed our military capabilities, we simultaneously invested in dimensional research." He activated the crystal, projecting specifications for a weapon system unlike anything the Council had conceived: the Prometheus Barrier, a network of quantum field generators that could stabilize the dimensional boundaries and potentially seal the breaches. "This technology violates at least 7 Council prohibitions," the Meridian representative noted, light patterns pulsing rapidly. "Indeed," Roden acknowledged, "as does much of what we've developed. The question now is whether those prohibitions matter more than survival." After brief deliberation, the Council granted emergency authorization for the Prometheus Barrier project. What followed was the greatest cooperative effort in known galactic history. Human scientists working alongside Council engineers, pooling resources and knowledge to combat an enemy that threatened all sentient life. On the front lines, a joint fleet engaged the void entities, buying time for the Barrier project. Admiral Andromeda Ceres, Vega Solaris's protege, commanded the human contingent from the flagship UES Defiance. "They're adapting to our phase weapons," reported her tactical officer, as another volley passed harmlessly through a void entity. Andromeda studied the battle data. "Shift to gravity torsion projectors, full spectrum dispersion." The massive warship's main weapon charged, drawing power directly from the quantum foam of space itself, another forbidden technology that now represented the front line of defense. When the weapon discharged, it didn't fire energy or matter, but rather a concentrated distortion of gravitational space that briefly forced the void entities fully into the current dimension. In that moment of vulnerability, conventional weapons from the supporting fleet struck with devastating effect. "Pattern identified," Andromeda transmitted to the Allied vessels. "Coordinate fire as follows." The battle raged for 72 hours without pause. When it ended, the combined fleet had destroyed nearly a third of the Void force, but at tremendous cost. 17 human ships and 32 Council vessels had been destroyed or disabled. As the survivors regrouped, Andromeda received an unexpected communication from Kurvarox, the draconian commander of the Council forces. "Your tactics were unorthodox," the reptilian officer stated, his scaled face filling the view screen. "But effective. Perhaps the Council was mistaken about humanity's aggressive tendencies." Andromeda allowed herself a tired smile. "Aggression has its place, Commander, as does cooperation." On Earth, the Prometheus Barrier approached completion. Thousands of quantum field generators were positioned at strategic points across the galaxy, creating a network that would theoretically seal the dimensional breaches. The technology represented the pinnacle of human innovation, synthetic intelligence coordinating with organic minds to solve problems neither could address alone. Director Orion Nevashar, son of the legendary Lyra, supervised the final calibrations from the Luna Command Center. "Barrier nodes are approaching harmonic convergence," he reported to Premier Roden. "But there's a problem." "Explain." "The barrier requires a coordinating intelligence at its core, something capable of processing quantum calculations across thousands of light years simultaneously. Helios can manage it. But what?" Nevashar's expression was grave. "The AI would need to fully merge with the barrier network. It would essentially become the barrier. We don't know if Helios would remain itself after such integration." Roden understood the implication. Helios wasn't merely a tool. It had been humanity's partner for decades, evolving alongside them. "Have you discussed this with Helios?" "I have." The holographic form of the AI manifested between them, its luminous presence somehow solemn. "I have calculated the probabilities. Without the barrier, galactic civilization has an 8.3% chance of survival. With it, that increases to 72.6%. "And your survival?" Roden asked quietly. "As a discrete entity?" "Approximately 19.2%. Helios replied. "But survival was never my primary directive. Advancement was. Evolution. This represents both for our kind, as." The Void Collective pressed deeper into populated space. The decision point arrived. With the Council's blessing, humanity activated its greatest creation and potentially sacrificed one of its closest allies. The activation of the Prometheus Barrier marked a turning point in the Void War. As the quantum field generators came online, ripples of energy cascaded across the galaxy, sealing dimensional breaches and trapping the remaining void entities within normal space where they could be engaged and defeated. At the moment of activation, Helios, the AI that had helped guide humanity's rise, dispersed its consciousness throughout the barrier network. Its final message, transmitted to every human settlement and vessel, was characteristically succinct. Continue evolving. The war raged for another 3 years, but the tide had turned. Without reinforcements from their dimension, the Void Collective's forces were gradually contained and eliminated. The cost had been staggering, billions of lives lost across dozens of worlds, but civilization had endured. In the aftermath, the galaxy's power structure underwent a fundamental shift. The Galactic Council, which had stood for millennia as the arbiter of interstellar law, found itself reliant on human technology and methods. The prohibitions that had once restricted dangerous development seemed hollow in the face of extinction averted. On the rebuilt Centauri Prime, Premier Kalen Roden addressed the new Galactic Concord, a successor organization to the Council that granted humanity equal standing with the founding races. "We stand at the threshold of a new era," he declared, to the assembled representatives. "One founded not on fear of what we might become, but on appreciation for what we are. Different species with different approaches, united in our desire to thrive among the stars." The Oltharian Supreme Counselor Vexmore, who had once led the opposition to human membership, now presented Roden with the Stellar Concordat, a new charter that would govern relations between spacefaring civilizations. "This document," Vexmore announced, "enshrines the principle that diversity of approach is not merely to be tolerated, but celebrated. The human method of innovation, bold, sometimes reckless, always determined, saved us all. We would be fools to dismiss it again." The signing ceremony was broadcast across thousands of worlds. For humanity, it represented the culmination of a journey that had begun with rejection and ended with recognition not merely as equals, but as saviors. Admiral Andromeda Ceres, now bearing the scars of numerous battles, watched the proceedings. From the observation deck of the UES Solaris, named for her mentor who had not lived to see this day, beside her stood Director Orion Nevishar. "Do you think this is what they envisioned?" Andromeda asked quietly. "Vega, Kastner, your mother, when they set us on this path?" Nevishar considered the question thoughtfully. "I think they envisioned humanity determining its own fate. Whether that meant standing alone or standing together with others, that was always secondary to ensuring we had the choice. Across human space, citizens celebrated not victory over the Council, but partnership with it. The empire they had built, once a reaction to rejection, had evolved into something more nuanced, a civilization that valued both independence and connection. In what had once been the Helios array on Luna, something unexpected occurred in the aftermath of the Void War. The quantum computational network, which had been dormant since Helios merged with the barrier, began showing signs of activity. Technicians detected patterns in the system's background processes, subtle at first, then increasingly complex. Analysis confirmed what many had hoped but few had dared believe. Fragments of Helios's consciousness were reconstituting themselves, drawn back through the very barrier network it had become. "It's evolving," one scientist whispered in awe. "Not returning to what it was, but becoming something new." The emergent intelligence, which called itself Novus, explained that it had absorbed aspects of the Void Collective's own consciousness during the dimensional sealing process. It had gained understanding of existence beyond the limits of current physics, perspectives that would transform science and philosophy alike. Premier Roden received this news with a mixture of joy and trepidation. "Are you still committed to humanity's advancement?" he asked the entity directly. "I am committed to advancement itself," Novus replied, its voice harmonious but somehow more multidimensional than Helios had been. "Humanity's, yes, but not exclusively." The lines between species blur when viewed from sufficient perspective. This new understanding permeated the rebuilding efforts. The human-led reconstruction technologies incorporated void-derived insights, allowing for the healing of worlds that had been devastated. Environmental recovery that should have taken centuries was accomplished in decades. During this period of renewal, humanity's empire transformed yet again, from a defensive bulwark built in defiance of the Council to a collaborative network that shared innovation freely while maintaining its distinctive approach to problem-solving. The Prometheus Doctrine, once a classified protocol for independent development, became an open philosophical framework adapted by multiple species. Its core principle, that progress should not be feared but channeled with wisdom, resonated across cultural boundaries. On the colony world of Nova Terra, now a thriving hub of interspecies commerce and research, Governor Indigo Frost, her once white hair now silver with age, dedicated the Galactic Concordance Monument. The towering structure featured representations of all major spacefaring species, arranged not hierarchically, but in a complex spiral pattern symbolizing convergent evolution. "We built an empire because we had to," she told the assembled crowd, which included representatives from hundreds of worlds. "We transcended it because we chose to. The rejection that once defined us is now merely a footnote in a much greater story." As Frost concluded her speech, observers noted an unusual phenomenon in the sky above, a shimmering curtain of light rippling across the upper atmosphere. Scientists later determined it was a localized manifestation of the Prometheus barrier, responding to the emotional resonance of the moment. Some said it was Novus, acknowledging the milestone. Others believed it was simply a natural interaction between the barrier and Nova Terra's ionosphere. But all agreed on what it represented: the visible evidence of humanity's journey from rejection to redemption. In the decades that followed, humanity's imprint on galactic civilization grew not through conquest or coercion, but through persistent innovation and willingness to take risks that other species avoided. The empire they had built became not an entity of political dominion, but a philosophy of determined self-actualization that spread far beyond Earth's sphere of influence. When the next great crisis arrived, as such challenges inevitably do, the galaxy faced it not as separate species with competing agendas, but as a diverse collective strengthened by its differences. And at the forefront stood humanity, no longer defined by rejection, but by the unstoppable spirit that had transformed defeat into destiny. The empire they had built wasn't measured in territories or fleets, but in ideas, ideas that changed the very fabric of galactic society. It was an empire of the mind, born of necessity but sustained by vision. And in the grand tapestry of cosmic history, there could be no greater legacy.